Welcome to a little drive with me episode with Margito. I'm headed to the city and I'm excited for a little getaway. My God, sometimes I love my family and it's the wildest ride, wildest adventure, biggest blessing of my life. But holy crap, twin toddlers are hard, dude. And some days when I know I have a little 2 or 3 night getaway, I'm just more than happy to get into the car. And I did a little card reading a few minutes before I hit the road because I was guided to just do a little drive with me episode. And as much as I have a bazillion topics that I was going to talk about, I was like, no, just pull the cards because it's going to be for the people listening. And so what I pulled, which I will post the image below so that you can see them, the suit, it's a very interesting spread. And so I'm going to just kind of tune in to what the messages are for those of you that are listening and curious or looking to kind of see like what the hell's going on, Margot. And I like to, when I do these readings, I always like to kind of just infuse general stuff because literally after doing thousands and thousands, whoops, I'm totally going 100 in a 70 zone. That's not a good idea. Oops. Sorry, 70 zone. I'm just going to slow down. Now I'm going 60 some down. Okay. So we'll just cruise. All right. So the power card that you'll see below, which is a beautifully wise lion energy on one side of the face and wise old man on the other side of the face, and that is a power card of the mystical arcana. So the one that is next to it is a kind of represents the past, and it's around heartache and loss, which I've really been pulling a lot of cards like that for people, especially connected to the past, just because you've heard me talk about a lot of the kind of collective trauma that has surfaced and really kind of opened people or closed people down, and given them a bit of that tumultuous kind of like questioning. Oh man, it's such a beautiful drive today, like so beautiful, I can't even get over it. All right, so this, like, I'm just stunned by the gorgeousness of this national park in this time of year, especially. It's so pretty. So the heartache and loss is one coming. I'm going to talk about all of these, and then preceded by deception and envy. And I was just like, ow, I don't want to do this reading if there's heartache and loss and deception and envy in here. And Spirit was like, yes, but there's also deep power in this card, and kick up my speed to 100. So the power card is really fascinating because when you talk about personal power, psychic power, spiritual power, divine power, to me, in my experience on this planet and as a psychic healer, that power, that energy, that is our connection, each and every single one of us, no matter how pinched out or how broad we feel connected to it, which is going to be different at different parts in your lives because that's the sacred design. You will know that sometimes you totally feel in your power and other times you don't. And when you have a power card that precedes, that's your now card, it's about really establishing solid boundaries within what's okay for you and what's not okay for you, observing yourself with awareness rather than judgment, and determining that with this connection to source and your spiritual power, which is divinely guiding you consistently, you are still not going to avoid the loss and heartache of, any traumatic stuff that's happened to you or any depressing aspects of things that you've allowed, or things that were completely out of your control, which can be your genetics or world events. We unfortunately can't really control these until we're more aware. Once we're all plugged in and more aware and more conscious, we absolutely can control world events, but it would take a lot of higher vibrational awareness for us to link our minds together and co-create in a way that would be a little more, I want to call it survivalist, but it's not. It's survivalist, because if we weren't in this fight-flight mode as a society most of the time, and if we were plugged into our psychic antennae, we would call our shots differently, we would communicate differently, we would honor people, respect people differently, and essentially, as individuals, as well as a collective, we would make wiser choices, right? So we wouldn't put ourselves in some of these terrible situations that we do. And so with your personal power, for those of you that have been guided to join my $333 Build Your Foundation, that for those of you that feel like you've either been eroded by a shit relationship or by, the injustice of society or any shadow process that you're aware of, and you're kind of wanting to redirect your pathway and change some of your patterns, I really suggest to invest in yourself for that. It's not a huge time commitment, but it can make a massive shift. Since I've built my own solid firm foundation, it's a creative process where we do a little bit of digging, and we're using the kinesiology as well as the somatic healing to move forward into really getting clear on your intentional focus to move forward. Now, if there's a heartache and loss aspect, you guys have all heard me talk about the kind of trauma bonds, and there's very few people in the world that have trauma, to be honest. Like, it's just, I don't think it's even a possibility. There's a lot of people that have done their work so that they understand their traumas and their trauma bonds, and therefore have a strong mentality on how to alter and shift and create different patterns. But at some point, all of us are going to carry generational trauma. We're going to carry pre-existing trauma from past lives. We're going to carry memory codings. And I really believe through the work that I've done that we are chosen / elected / decided to reincarnate on this planet to come back to the scene of the crime and give each other practices to do better, right? And your guidance system will, if it's in touch, your guidance system will often be very clear with how and why, and knowing a lot of the reasons why we are with certain people in our lifetime, why we attract certain people, and that can be really helpful. I really suggest that people wake up to that and try to tune into that psychic energy, because then you'll get the answers when you're open to them. So with the heartache and loss, if you've had loss, and it's funny because of course I talk a lot about miscarriage and stillbirth and the loss of my own kind of fantasy that I had about life and how it should be, that can be a loss in itself, just the general disappointment of what your expectation of the world should be versus the reality of the world is. And in this fine balance of place, we do become the co-creator, and we do give ourselves divine energy and power to move forward and create as we see fit. But we can't control all the things. So when the card deception and envy shows up, this can be, and this is what I'm hearing, where are you deceiving yourself, right? What wisdom are you aware of that you're observing yourself in, and you're coming from a place of power, understanding that you've had protective parts trying to protect you wisely, as they do, protect you from being hurt. So we create the door, create the wall, carry the burden, and then become a victim of our circumstance, right? That's, all of us are susceptible to that, because in truth, we're all going to have parts of our life where we do feel victimized, right? So when we carry that burden without the processing of the trauma, which is pretty typical, unfortunately, is that we don't have the tools all the time, or the finances, or the drive, or the desire to do the work, because it's not fucking easy. And so when that happens, the deception that comes up is going to be because you're A, lying to yourself, B, letting other people lie to you, or C, trying to uncover a deeper truth. And that's the way I like to go in the higher dimensions, to be honest. Like, we can look at things as a victimization or a troublesome aspect, or we can go, okay, I'm fully aware of my choices and decisions based on my wounding, based on my decisions. How am I acting? How am I responding? And where am I deceiving myself to something that isn't true? At least when you come from that perspective, you're being super conscious and awake about how you're maneuvering through life. You're not just doing it on the willy-nilly, like making dumb decisions without even consciously choosing them. So does that make sense? I'm a little over the map because I'm watching the road and trying to be casual, but in the same dimension of time-space in which we live, this is the message for you today. When you are in your power, when you're aware of your shadows, when you're aware of your ability to manifest, to heal, to do the work, and you accept the help and show up for it, and then intend what you want to come into your life, it will come in. Now, that does not mean that through the heartache and loss and through the deception and envy, you're not going to have a little bit of fuckery in there, because that's just not, how it's supposed to go. We are unfortunately very lucky to be here to process and learn these lessons and wisdom. So when it comes to the spiritual healing, that's where we have a little bit of power to renegotiate the energies that we're working with based on how willing we are to learn, right? So I think that what the biggest message was for this card spread was that even though there's possible deceit and envy in the future, and watch out for that, because a lot of people, when you are in your power, people don't love it, or they want to replicate it instead of being authentic, and the ego can really get annoyed by that. But in truth, we are all divinely connected and here to help and inspire people and give each other a lift when we need it. And so stay open in your power to your observation of what you're creating, what you're allowing, and where you're deceiving yourself, or where you're choosing to take off the blinders, take off the mask, and really assess the truth at full value of what that means for you. And then you're making a decision from a place of power. Does that make sense? I hope that does, because Spirit's telling me that's kind of what they were trying to get at, is that little message right there. So if that resonated for you, just rewind it and listen to that little snippet again. And now I'll just sign off, because I want to keep my eyes on the road and all of the incredible colors and how I just love to drive. Okay, chat with you guys soon. Bye.